BMD Boxing Reports, Ronell Higg reporting here, and I'm back at it for the boxing fanatics. Alright, so, damn man, yo, that little press conference that took off with Stiverne and Deontay Wilder, man, yo, that was something impressive. However, you know, it's really like two ways you can beat a man in boxing, and that's mentally and physically. Alright, so I just want to note on one thing here. Now, let's see if Stiverne really did get into Deontay Wilder's head. I mean, the only way we'll find out is on fight night, because you know this whole thing that happened at the press conference, it looked pretty familiar. I remember it was Lamian Brewster versus Vladimir Klitschko, and Lamian Brewster was very emotional, and you know, it was about his trainer had passed away or something. And what happened was, I mean, he was up there at the press conference. He was just emotional. Oh my goodness, emotional. But you know, it looked kind of the same with Stiverne and Wilder. I mean, you had Vladimir sitting there looking up at the podium as Lamian Brewster talk and say, hey man, I'm gonna do this here. You know, this dude gonna have to kill me. I'm gonna win this fight, this, that, and the third. And it's sort of the same, you know. And when it came down to the fight, it was like Vladimir was kind of intimidated. I mean, he was really trying to keep Lamian Brewster away from him. However, Lamian Brewster ended up winning that fight. So we're gonna see here how this is gonna go down. But let me get to what I'm really here for. All right. Okay, so you know, Daniel Jacobs, all right, man, he's a real attractive fighter amongst the fans, you know, especially when it comes down to matchmaking him. I remember someone had made a poster of him and David Lemieux about them being on the Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin fight, and I'm telling you, man, that poster, it looked good as cake with Daniel Jacobs and David Lemieux. I mean, it looked good, all right? That was a pretty good matchup. Now, I understand that some people are like, I'm gonna say, really not impressed with Daniel Jacobs because of the way he took on Gennady Golovkin. I guess that they were like hoping that Daniel Jacobs would do the same thing he did against Peter Quillin, you know, in their fight. You know, how he went out there and just jumped all over Peter Quillin. Heck, I was hoping the same. Okay, I mean, I was hoping that Daniel Jacobs go out there and just, you know, be on top of Gennady Golovkin like he was Peter Quillin. However, all right, we all must admit that Golovkin is a way totally different animal than Peter Quillin. I mean, Golovkin took all of Canelo's best shots and still kept coming. All right, and he didn't even get rocked in that fight. Okay, I mean, he took everything from Canelo Alvarez. Now, it goes to show that you know, Golovkin has a chin, all right, pretty good chin. But then again, he did get rocked by Kell Brooks, though. I mean, a much smaller fighter than himself. So I guess, so maybe, you know, if the fans thought that if Kell Brooks could rock Gennady Golovkin, then, you know, well, then Daniel Jacobs should be able to, you know, drop Gennady Golovkin, all right? But hey, that didn't happen. However, you know, for the fans who still believes in Daniel Jacobs and all, you know, they still match him up in these fantasy matchups, fights that we, you know, really wish to see. Now, let's take a look, okay, at both these fighters. Now, they're matching them up with Chris Eubank Jr., okay? Now, this right here looks good. I mean, I understand that he'll have to take like 8 steps up to face Chris Eubank Jr., but it's still a pretty good matchup. I truly think. Now, let's take a look at both of these guys. All right, now I basically explained everything on Daniel Jacobs' part. So let's move on. Let's look at Chris Eubank Jr. All right, now Chris Eubank Jr. versus Arthur Abraham. I'm telling you, I mean, that fight was just a full blowout, you know, for Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, he was looking like, say, a Roy Jones in his prime. I mean, he was throwing those quick punches, combinations, and all. I mean, he was just displaying that hand speed along with the awkward punches coming from all different directions and in all different angles. I mean, he made Arthur Abraham look his age. I mean, man, damn. I mean, Arthur Abraham, he's what, 37 years old? And it's time for him to retire. However, all right, Arthur Abraham is known for what? I mean, for me, he's known for his fight with Edison Miranda and Jermaine Teller. And that fight with Edison Miranda, I remember is he took everything that Edison Miranda had to offer him. All right, I mean, he was taking all of his best shots. He even suffered a broken jaw in that fight. All right, however, Arthur Abraham just came from nowhere and stopped Edison Miranda in the 4th round. And I also remember that fight with Jermaine Teller, like I said earlier, and the way he had starched Jermaine Teller in the Super 6. All right, but if you know, like I know, Jermaine Teller had no business being in the Super 6 any damn way. All right, now moving on to Chris Eubank Jr.'s most recent opponent. If I'm saying his name right, who was it? Avni Uradrim. I hope I said it right. Now, I'll say he looked about the same in that fight as he did in the Arthur Abraham fight. Throwing those quick punches and making his opponent cover up. Eubanks Jr. was fighting off the back leg as well. He was timing Advani coming in, catching him as he was coming in. He also got a knockout in this fight. All right, but I noticed something in this fight. All right, with Advani versus Chris Eubanks Jr. Now, and Chris Eubanks Jr. had some small ass gloves on. All right, in fact, he was wearing those winning brand gloves, the same brand that Floyd Mayweather used to wear, and the same gloves that Manny Pacquiao was complaining about in his fight with Eric Morales. Pacquiao was saying that those gloves were like pillows. He was like, man, you couldn't even kill an ant with those gloves. Now, Advani, he was wearing the the Reyes gloves, the puncher's gloves. Compare his gloves to Chris Eubanks Jr.'s gloves. Chris Eubanks Jr.'s gloves was like so small that it made them Reyes gloves look like big ass Grant gloves. All right, I mean, I understand that they make all different sizes of gloves and everything, but damn, I'm just thinking to myself, the gloves that Chris Eubanks Jr. he was wearing, those winning gloves, were those gloves made for a 168-pound fighter? I mean, them bad boys looked small, almost like MMA gloves. I mean, they looked like they was 4-ounce gloves. Now, I had did some research, and comes to find out, yes, winning, they make 8-ounce gloves. Okay, that right there I did not know. They also make 10-ounce gloves and stuff. And also found out that Reyes, they're just not known for making 8-ounce gloves anymore. They also are known for making 10-ounce gloves. So just maybe Advani had on the 10-ounce gloves, because I'm telling you, Chris Eubanks Jr.'s gloves were so damn small that, like I said to you before, it made Advani's gloves look like they were Grant gloves, a study, the puncher gloves, Reyes. Now, I mean, I'm just saying, was Chris Eubanks Jr. wearing 4-ounce gloves? And if he was, those gloves are not for 168 pounders. Those gloves are for kids, all right? So if he was wearing 4-ounce gloves made for kids, well, can't really complain because nobody else is saying anything about it. But that was just something that I had noticed, all right? But coming in this fight with him taking on Daniel Jacobs in this fight, man, it'll make a good one. I really don't know where the fight would take place at. Maybe it'll take place over here in the States or possibly in the UK. I would love for it to be on neutral grounds, which is really Las Vegas, but I don't think that Daniel Jacobs or Chris Eubanks Jr. is really that big of a name, so the fight could be in those type of grounds. However, let me see, who will I pick to win? I mean, that'd be a good behind fight. I mean, of course, Daniel Jacobs will have to take on a few like tune-up fights, once he, entered the 168 division. But damn, Chris Eubanks Jr. versus Daniel Jacobs, who will win? It's a hard one. I mean, I see more of Daniel Jacobs fights than I see Chris Eubank Jr.'s, because, living over here in the States and all, it's not like, the cable TV shows a lot of British boxing or overseas boxing. Of course, you only need satellite TV for that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, satellite TV shows boxing all over the world. You can always catch a fight. I would get satellite television, but damn, man, I don't know. It's not good for the winter time. So saying this, I mean, I would have to go with Daniel Jacobs on this, because I've seen, his fights. I mean, I do see some of Chris Eubank Jr. fights, but that's only on like YouTube. Well, basically the same thing. But I don't know, judging by their opponents and everything, I understand that Chris Eubank Jr. had took on Arthur Abraham, who was just as strong as Gennady Golovkin, in his day. But he took him on later on in his career, and with Daniel Jacobs taking on a well-primed Gennady Golovkin, compared to Arthur Abraham. Gennady Golovkin is still in his prime. And he went the full 12 rounds. He did get knocked down, or it was a slip, whatever the case may be, but at least he did go the full 12 rounds with a well-primed fighter. So it's still up in the air. Then again, if I am going to choose, it'll be Daniel Jacobs. So that's my takes on this CMD Boxing Reports. I'll catch you guys on the next one.